just the facts, ma'am.
Just the fact. Now, the stimulus bill, I just saw announcements this morning, more news about it. And should Congress not go home for the holidays until that's all resolved? So what are the facts about this stimulus bill?
Well, especially because of what I'm calling Surge 3. We've had the initial surge in March through June, and then we had a surprise surge later in the summer. And now we're having a third surge that started about a month ago and has people pretty scared. There's still a fear that following the incubation from last Thursday's Thanksgiving celebrations, that we could have a spike as part of this third surge from people who have traveled and been exposed over Thanksgiving. So part of the situation is that because of the surges, as I mentioned in my previous a couple segments, that a lot of small businesses have closed. There's a lot of disruption in the economy that I think that there's a rationale out there from both parties that there should be some type of stimulus. Now, here is my main concern, which I've expressed before in other episodes of Saving America. I am an American taxpayer. I pay a lot of tax, both real estate taxes, personal property tax. I pay income tax. I do not want 1 penny of my money to be thrown in the toilets called California and New York. And I think there are a lot of Americans, the flyover country, which includes Texas, so-called, between the two far left states of New York and California, who do not want their money thrown in the garbage pit of California and New York. So here's a great firsthand, not a rumor, example. In California, they have paid over $1 billion in unemployment benefits to people in prison, including over 100 people on death row. Now, what kind of a system allows people who are in prison and on death row to get unemployment benefits? $1 billion. Folks, that's a lot of money. And I don't want 1 penny of my hard-earned money to go to such a wasteful operation. I don't want it to go to supporting people who are here illegally. Contrary to anything anybody says, people who are here illegally are not here to pay taxes, are not part of the American system. Generally speaking, they cannot legally own property. They're not paying real estate taxes. Texas famously does not have an income tax. In exchange, people like myself who own property pay very high real estate taxes. They ain't paying any into it. I don't want them voting, and I don't want them getting pieces of my tax dollars. So every Republican in the Senate that I've heard from said no bailout for California and New York. So if the stimulus is properly focused, and I'm hearing much lower numbers. When Trump was talking about this 6 weeks or so ago, he said I could go as high as $1.8 trillion, a number that caused me heart palpitations. But in any event, I've heard numbers today more like $800 billion focused on small business. Yay. Number two, making the PPP, Payroll Protection Plan, more user-friendly. As a small business person who received a PPP, tiny PPP loan, we used it for rent and payroll in less than 6 weeks. It's very complicated. It doesn't need to be that complicated. And at the same time, much of it was thrown down the toilet. There were reports of people getting millions of dollars in PPP who did not qualify and did not properly, explain what they did with the money. I know some people were actually criminally prosecuted, which they should have been. But in any event, a sensible small business support system makes sense. I've also heard some support for another what I'd call a taxpayer bailout, that they would send some money to American families to try and give them a little boost. And that it appears to have some bipartisan support. So there's been no consensus yet. But I think that one of the ironies of this long-running contentious debate is that if it's needed, why don't you get your act together and do it now rather than keep talking about it? And now that the election has passed, it does appear that the parties might be willing to sit down and come up with a more rational bill. But number one, I hope it stays under $1 trillion. And number two, I hope it is focused on direct support to individuals and some meaningful support for small businesses. So that's what I see in the news today.
What an exciting day. Wow. You got more animated than you normally do even. So that was great. Great. I loved your not enthusiasm, I won't call it that. I love your response and the way you talk about these topics. So David, once again, your book, The Decline of America and 100 Years of Leadership Failures. So that gives you a little hint. The book is available on Amazon. And right now, because of the Cyber Monday and today is Giving Tuesday, the ebook is available for 99 cents. So get your copy now and you'll see what a great book and what an idea for a Christmas present for that person in your life that likes history and likes to read about the history of the United States. David is also a professor and associate dean at the University of St. Thomas. So we could take another 15 or 20 minutes, David, and talk about your resume because you've got you've done a lot. So thank you for that. Thank you for your contribution and your ongoing contribution with the topics that you're talking about on Saving America. So thank you. And thank you guys for joining us. And if you're listening and on one of our podcast platforms, then please subscribe and stay up to date with what's going on in Saving America. So have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Sandy. Take care.